All right, so welcome back to this episode of Fast Casual Nation. I'm your host, Paul Barron, and of course, we love to talk about the greatest concepts in the world when it comes to fast casual. And one of the areas that we kind of have been exploring really since the evolution of Fast Casual Nation, our video series, was the better burger category. And there was some early breakouts. We got a chance to visit George Frangos, who is the co-founder and senior advisor of Farm Burger, once when we were in Atlanta a few years ago. Welcome back to the show, man.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Happy to see you again. Yeah.
So you, George, you guys have changed a lot since we got a chance to go visit you on location. Tell us a little about what's happened at Farm Burger in the last few years.
Yeah, I think probably when we spoke, we were at 3, maybe 4 restaurants, and probably
very early.
in just in Atlanta area, and probably had opened up at that time in Asheville, North Carolina, so in one state. So, in those years, we're currently sitting at 11 stores and a stand at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and primarily now in the Southeast. So we're also in Alabama and Tennessee. The second location now in Asheville. In the last 5 years, went to California, had 2 stores in the Bay Area, in Berkeley and Marin, but just in the last year decided to move on from those stores. Just 3,000 miles away was a little bit too challenging, and that wasn't the growth market for us. And so we've done a little bit more in terms of growth, accelerated growth over the last 2-3 years, and some change in style and adapted to trends and technology in the last 6 years or so since we last met. And
we're going to get a chance to
today.
Definitely talk about those. You guys are also doing something with Whole Foods. What's going on there?
Sure. So we opened up. That's the last store to open in the summer. So a partnership with Whole Foods. I think they call it their Friends program. So they opened up a flagship store in the Southeast in Midtown Atlanta. So we did a partnership with them. It's a great location, a building which takes over 3 stories or 3 floors. So we're not on the shopping floor. We're kind of in the corner of their building, and it's sort of a co-venture with Whole Foods. So it still feels like a Farm Burger, its own location, but it's within their building, in their structure, in their
I like it.
In their program. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the non-traditional veins seem to be really expanding now in fast casual. We've seen everything from ghost kitchens to non-traditional airport venues. College and university, much like what you guys are doing with Mercedes-Benz at the stadium there. And I think they seem to be doing well. How has been the response to these non-traditional outlets for you?
They've been good, and I think they offer a lot of different barriers to entry, so lower barrier to entries. You can play off just some natural foot traffic that they bring to you. Right. And so it's really something, as we look forward, it's there's so much competition and probably overgrowth. We'll talk about that in a bit too. Yeah. That I think that's really what we need to be looking toward.
For sure. Yeah. All right. So, George, let's get into the leadership team. What's it look like today at Farm Burger?
Mm-hmm. So today it probably looks a lot like it did 6 years ago, but in between there were some changes. So there was a point where we brought on some growth capital about 3 years ago with partners. I stepped a little bit aside from the daily operations piece, and we brought in some different leadership in after about 3 years. We just made a change here in 2020 where that I've stepped back into a leadership role. So it kind of looks a lot like it used to from 6 years ago. So
interesting. Well, good. Well, congrats on that. All right. So you guys were kind of the focus of, we'll call it farm to table, local origin type sourcing, especially in the better burger category. As you scale, because obviously you're moving into some outer markets, how are you guys addressing that? Because obviously local, do you have to build ecosystems within or near each one of those new restaurants?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of both. It's when I look back to, because we're 10 years this year, so if I look back through the last decade, from just one store, and we were kind of raising our own pigs and raising our own
Right.
cattle, and kind of evolved almost every 2-3 years. I feel like there's some evolution in our kind of supply chain, um, but it always goes back to our roots in our mission, and our culture. But as we're going into different markets, about 3 years ago,
Mhm.
we formed just really a distribution relationship with U.S. Foods. So we're still sourcing our own cattle, processing our own cattle, but they're our distribution arm, right? So we've been
Okay.
well, and it's happened because scale. So
Yeah,
at
sure.
three, four stores, they won't want to pick up our product and deliver it for us, but now they'll go to our processor. They'll pick up product, and then they'll put it in their DCs throughout the southeast. So it's just a product that's our own, and they're doing that delivery.
Yeah.
There's new distribution companies within the local food scene, the common market that's in the Northeast, or Mid Atlantic, really. Um, Launched an operation here in Atlanta about 2 years ago. And so they're the food distribution company set up as a nonprofit, but their core mission is to connect smaller farms and give them opportunities within um, restaurants and other food service
Right.
markets. So that's been a relationship that in 2019 we've dug into that a lot more. So, um, but to your question is, yes, in some of these markets we create new resources. We meet new food partners and farmers and livestock people. So it's been a good evolution.
Yeah,
And
very cool.
yeah.
I'm impressed with what's happened at the distribution level. I
Hmm.
think it's just been the massive influx of brands like yourself, the under
Yeah.
50 unit concepts
Yeah.
that really kind of populate the land. We were doing a breakout of our fast casual list. Currently, we're tracking 800 plus brands. They kind of
Wow.
float around 850,
Huh.
and about 60% of those are under 50 units.
Hmm.
So the bulk of that, so I'm assuming, and it appears that the distribution companies have started to recognize this as potential growth
Yeah.
market for fast casual
Yeah.
and applying some
Yeah.
methodologies there. So that's cool. I like
Yeah.
that. So talking about the volume of fast casual growth in the past 5 years, if you look at where the space is, because it's getting very
Hmm.
crowded,
Yep.
there's a lot of competition in terms of choice. We've seen some numbers in the better burger category start to decline a little
Hmm.
bit. In fact, it was the first decline we saw in probably the last 3 years. What do you feel is potentially going to shake out here with all these potential
Hmm.
choice options?
Um, I think you've got a lot of pressures. See, some of it is pressures on everyone's trying to grow, and there's only limited space in each market. Right?
Hmm.
I think there's a lot more pressure on getting the right location in a market.
Right.
As I think in the past, uh, let's say, locations could certainly provide enough traffic and revenue stream for us. And we're finding it's critical to kind of find those A locations. And so
Right.
as it shakes out in the better burger space, like everyone's feeling the pressure from third party delivery, to what used to maybe be unique to fast casual single option better burgers. You see a lot
Hmm.
of crossover. So I would say that mid-level full service dining is offering a lot of what we used to offer in a unique way. So
Yeah.
um, um, so I'd
Well,
like
and
to
they're
say
doing
that.
it. They're
Yeah.
doing it at price points that are somewhat. They're starting to encroach on
Absolutely.
competitive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you
Correct.
think,
So.
I mean, with those kind of big boxes, though, do you feel like
Mhm.
that can hold? Because that price point,
Right.
when you have a big box like that, I just don't see that being a long-term solution. Sure, it might get them on a price leader. Maybe they get
Mhm.
another visit, but is that a long-term sustainable potential
Yeah, I
option?
don't, I don't, I don't think so. And I think it's always the you can do one thing well, do a lot of things okay. So it might
Yeah.
get people in for a visit, but I do think for us, it's really focusing on this year of just sort of being best in class, in terms of, service and product and really execution. And
Yeah.
so when you see that dive, you really just try to look at yourself and make sure you're delivering on all the things you promise.
George, we recently did a poll on some of our users and listeners, and also in general consumers
Yeah.
on plant-based and beef options for the burger.
Yeah.
And I was surprised, because we were trying to figure out who was the most favorite plant-based company. And what happened in the poll was we got more feedback on regular beef than we did than we got on the plant-based selections.
Right. Yeah.
Almost on a 3-to-1 basis. So I was kind of taken back on that. So my question is, do you feel like plant-based is really here to stay, or is it just kind of an option that, that the market's going to have, and we're going to just have those kinds of options in terms of menus down the road?
Yeah, I think it's fallen into the option. I think there's some unique concepts that are just pushing the plant-based.
Right.
And I think those are great, but I think there's going to be limited room for that. And when we started looking at Impossible Beyond 2-3 years ago, as they started coming into the market, we kind of, push it off. We make our own veggie burger.
Right.
And we're like, why would we do this or pay a premium price when we're making something ourselves that we really stood behind? But then, when this craze popped up, mid last year, you have people coming in and almost doing a 360 when you're like, oh, you don't have the Impossible or the Beyond. And they would kind of come in and come out. And so,
interesting.
Okay. I don't know if we overly promote it, like a Burger King or someone else. But it's definitely an option now at all our stores. So we have our house-made even vegan burger that we like, and then always have an option for a plant-based.
Interesting.
Substitute. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. So you think it's going to be one of those things where, and I've talked to many experts where they think that the consumers are just starting to, opt out of maybe that 4 burgers a month. They might be choosing to 3 burgers a month and a plant-based and going that direction. So making it available. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And it's almost equated to like gluten-free buns in some ways. We talk about it now. It's like it's not even an option, right? So, the gluten-free buns and those options, we're testing the water in it, 3-4 years ago, and it's like we wouldn't open the store without having that option, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's kind of table stakes with that for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so as you expand, because these are strategies that a lot of operators and people listening or watching this show really kind of look for in terms of building their brand, and that is location strategy, market strategy. You guys kind of have taken few different turns, left turns when people might think you go right. Jumping into Alabama and Tennessee, not, for a better burger, you would think maybe Dallas going head to head with some of those guys there, or up in Kansas City. What were some of the thought processes that kind of pushed you into these second tier markets?
Some of it was talking to other people I knew in the industry as they started out their brands, and as they grew in the Southeast, they always sort of like, don't discount the mid-market cities. And they had sometimes big success in the Columbus, Georgias, or the Macons or whatnot. And, so our first foray into Alabama was in Huntsville. And it was really a visit into the town and seeing the demographics, the people, the food scene, and going to some of these, like a P.F. Chang's, and seeing like an hour and a half wait for a table. So it was like, all right, there's people here. There's
food deserts. Here.
And so we entered Huntsville 4 years ago, actually just about to have our 4-year anniversary, and they're opening their first Whole Foods in Huntsville.
There you go.
And so again, it's I think I hate to say like this word sophistication, but people in all these mid markets understand what we're doing, and are looking for a better product. And just the same really with plant based now. It's kind of coast to coast.
So for sure. If you look back at some of the guys that kind of mastered this, Ron Shake over at Panera Bread, he went to the middle America markets when Panera started
Yeah.
first growing in their franchise system, went to a
Yeah.
lot of second tier mid markets and exploded that brand
Yeah.
to where now it's it's a household name. So
Yeah.
I think it's a great move for brands, especially like you guys. You can go in, kind of dominate the better burger category in a town like Huntsville
Hmm.
for sure. Is that the case you're finding when you drop into these mid levels where you become kind of the one or two option?
That's the idea, and that's the thought. I think if you look at the landscape today, even just from 4 years ago, there's not as many open open landscapes even in these mid tiers. But certainly you have an opportunity to stand out a little bit more. In a kind of a smaller fishbowl.
George, when you look at consumers today, obviously, there's been a big movement in the past decade of consumers shifting over to fast casual. Value proposition has
Hmm.
always been kind of one of the big leaders there. When you look at the consumer of today, the new millennial and even the Gen Z that's starting to guide the mom and
Hmm.
dad today, what are you guys looking for in terms of how to target your product into those markets? Is there anything specific you guys are doing from a strategy standpoint to reach that particular demographic?
You know, I, the demo, it's, it's really, I think that's changed really fast, right?
Yeah,
And it's really come to the forefront at this point. So it's tapping into, there's a point that we felt we needed to, I think, have almost like less options and streamline our operations. And I really think if you look at the Gen Z, millennials, etc., they're actually looking probably for more options, right? And
interesting.
so
Okay.
kind of plays back to what we did originally.
In the beginning,
Um,
yeah,
differentiation and different options. So when you even talk about plant-based or our market salads or different things within the menu, um, so creating what we are as a better burger place, but having some different unique options. And then you go into technology and how do you capture those people either through very interactive apps or third party delivery and really making sure you're not losing focus, at least for us, for what was our original mission in terms of
right.
sourcing and local and kind of that whole farm to table piece.
Yeah, I have to ask everybody that's on this
Yeah.
show about third-party delivery
Yep.
and kind of where you fall on
Hmm.
the side of third-party delivery. What are your thoughts in terms of
Yep.
the value proposition to you as an
Yeah.
operator and to the consumer? Where do you think this is
Yeah.
going?
It's not going away. It's just getting stronger, and I think it's if you ignore it, you're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah,
And 2018 is when we really took a concerted look into it and redid some of our packaging and created more national contracts with I'd say the four big players.
yeah,
But it evolves every month, every 6 months. You have different players, you
yeah,
have different mergers, different types of technology, and so you really have to keep up with it.
sure.
I almost think the biggest issue for us is really the not just everyone complains about the percentage taken, but it requires now manpower, kind of like on our corporate level, right? So you're always managing this technology and you're managing the communication and managing a new thing. One more thing you have to reconcile on the accounting level, right?
Yeah,
So it's
that's
created
a
this sort of
that's a good
behind
point.
the scenes management that takes as well. So
Well, and
um,
and as operations expand on
yeah,
third-party delivery, whether you're using one of the, the
right,
companies that are doing
hmm,
third-party or developing your own, the
correct,
percentage of sales
yeah,
continues to start to lift. Obviously, that
yeah,
changes your strategy for your footprint
yep,
and and really kind of your unit
yeah,
economics
yeah,
because you've got to change your staff mix and how you
correct,
guys basically build out a store. Has that
yep.
affected your build outs yet when you open a new store?
We're really starting now to get that data and look at it. I mean, we have one store that's in a more urban area in Atlanta, and I would say 35 to 40% is third party delivery
Whoa.
of that unit.
Okay.
And it's a small footprint. So it actually kind of ended up working to our favor that it was that store, but that's about a 1,700 square foot footprint.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, that would have to be the case, I think, especially
yeah,
with that. I've seen some options
yeah,
where we talked to the founder of Suvla. He's building his stores out to where they're actually making it easier for the Uber and Grubhub drivers to come and get the
correct.
food,
Yep,
so that it just doesn't disrupt their operations. So they've got that kind
yep,
of thing going.
yeah,
And obviously that's going to affect kind of the
yeah.
build out, and also retail and location, parking,
Um,
because of course you got cars involved with that scenario as well.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So last question here. When you look at kind of the evolution of where fast casual is going, I'd love to get insights on every CEO, every founder on where they think the market is heading, especially
Hmm.
in the next 5 years, because we've seen signs that this isn't slowing down, even though we're
Hmm.
at 800 plus concepts out there now in fast casual.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't think it's slowing down. I think as whenever you get a saturation point, though, there's always creates a little bit of a bubble, right? And
Right.
so you'll probably see some thinning out. I think you've already seen some consolidation. You see
Right.
some very
Acquisitions.
big acquisitions and some very successful, operators that go into markets and just kind of fail in certain markets, right?
Right.
And so and I don't know if anybody has really put the finger on the why sometimes, right? And
Yeah.
so I think the ones that have more success is where you already have good brand recognition.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be harder for people um, to get that early on kind of differentiation and grab the market. But I don't. But at the same time, I think there's still definitely growth options. And
Yeah. So get
for
market
sure.
share early, drive it hard,
Yeah.
hopefully kind of control the space. And if you're
Yeah.
lucky, you get great retail. Your thoughts on
Right.
ghost kitchens? Are you guys doing anything with those?
We look at it absolutely, and I think going back to our one unit where we have such that high percentage of third party delivery. I think for us would be, would you create maybe a ghost kitchen / commissary kitchen, right,
Right.
in a certain
Hmm.
market, and sort of like to get two birds out of that one stone, but not sure exact. It's tough to look at those full economics
Yeah.
and to see how
Still
that would
very
work.
early, that's for sure,
Yeah,
as we
yeah,
see the market expand. It's going to be
yeah,
fun to watch fast casual this year. And I think, in
yeah,
the years coming, as we continue to see new players make it into the market and really kind of this focus on regionalized growth.
yeah,
George, it's been great having you on the show today. Thanks for stopping in.
yeah. No, I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Good to see you again,
You
Paul.
bet.
All right,
All right. So for all of
all right.
you,
Thank you, guys.
yeah. So for all of you listening in over on Spotify or on iTunes, make sure and leave us a review. That's how we get feedback from you, our audience. And of course, if you have an idea for a show, you can hit me up on Twitter, DM me either way at Paul Barron, or you can also send us an email, which is just over to producer@foodabletv.com. Make sure if you're checking this out on YouTube to hit the subscribe button so you can get more great content just like this. We'll catch you next time right here on Fast Casual Nation.